Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, are we touching things again?
Oh, yeah. We're touching.
We are. We're just touching all the things again now.
We touch. We don't. Oh, do we use antiseptic or the hand sanitizers and stuff like that now?
We've long established I'm the germaphobe.
We have. Yes, clearly.
I was using the hand sanitizer before. Still using it now.
Yes.
I'm just maybe not as concerned maybe as I was.
I mean, I'm going to retail establishments, stuff like that. I'm seeing people touching screens.
Yeah,
not really.
Yeah.
We kind of feel like we're back to where we were.
Well, it's funny you mentioned touching screens because that's our topic today. We're going to talk about touchscreen technology.
Yes.
But in particular, we're going to talk about some niche and unique use cases for touchscreen technology.
Yes.
Not the stuff that we all always think about and know about. We want to talk about, hey, where can this technology be inserted in different industries and businesses that maybe we don't normally think about that might benefit from touchscreen technology?
Maybe some little niches here that our resellers can go in and try to find some opportunities.
It's all about giving them some new opportunities. Exactly.
I like it.
We have Bill Nulf with us today from MicroTouch. He's going to help us dive into these
industry
cases.
Expert. Yes.
So we're going to talk about some cases we don't talk about enough. We're going to talk about some specific stuff like cannabis dispensaries, healthcare. We'll do a little speed round of use cases out there.
I got some.
Oh, look at you.
I'm coming to the table prepared.
You're actually prepared today.
A little bit.
Unlike most podcasts, you actually showed up prepared today. Says the man who just told you he just thought up this intro right before we came on the air. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Bill Nulf. Bill is the VP of Channel Sales for MicroTouch. Bill, thanks so much for joining us today. Glad to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your day-to-day life at MicroTouch.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity. As you stated, I'm run the channel sales here at MicroTouch. And day-to-day is just trying to help the VARs and trying to find product and just getting that stuff along, and then learning how to be a logistics person as well. So that's I know you can get like green belts in that. I think I may already have one of those from all the stuff with logistics we have to deal with. But hey, keeps you busy and keeps you involved in the business.
Yeah, that logistics part wasn't really part of your job description originally, I assume, or anybody's for that matter. But everybody's had to become an expert lately if you're involved in sales in this channel at all. So.
Dude, the whole channel is logistics. We all know logistics, where it is, how it's coming. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We were all experts on pandemics before this. Now we're all logistics experts.
Exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, let's go ahead and jump into this then because, we brought you on because we wanted to talk about some potential use cases for touchscreen technology that we don't think about as often. Maybe some opportunities for our VARs to go out there and find some business that not everyone else is chasing after right now. So first up, let's talk about prisons. This was one that I didn't expect even
Prisons? Did you just say prisons?
Prisons, yes, because I mean, my thing is like, well, you're in prison. Like, should you even have access to nice technology stuff? But at the same time, yes, you should because, you deserve, nice things too. I mean, maybe, depending on the situation.
Oh, no, I got to fill in here. Go ahead.
But so how is touch displays being used in correctional facilities right now?
Well, I think from the top level, the big thing I think is that it minimizes interaction, but it increases engagement. So there's less, getting face-to-face touching, but then it can get both the prisoner, the staff, their visitors more engaged by having that technology. And I think it even showed its value more during the COVID when they were allowed to come back open. A lot of people thought COVID did the reverse, or that it made touchscreens less usable. But, most people, they thought, I don't want to touch it. But when you have the opportunity to, if you don't have to get up close to somebody, it's a lot easier to touch, and you're actually probably in a better situation of not maybe catching, the COVID, which is still spreading.
Gotcha. So you're seeing this in environments where it's, visitors come in that type of an environment?
Checking in, the commissaries, it allows them, maybe even through like a FaceTime app of some type, if it's a Mac, some of those types of thing. If you have the touch, it allows a lot less of the peripheral type products around, and it helps generate more money when you have everything tied into the touch, the commissary, those type of things that cuts the cash handling down. It can all be probably done through accounts that they have. The prisoners have an account. It's all being digitalized and captured into applications for that are out there, similar to what you would find in a front to back in a store application where it covers everything.
Yeah, I got you. It's the same efficiencies we're getting on touch in retail space, for example, or hospitality space we're seeing there as well. I imagine there's control rooms in prisons as well, right? They've got a lot of locks, they've got a lot of doors, stuff like that.
Got a few locks, yeah.
That they need control over. And hey, I'm imagining the old NASA, control room with knobs and buttons.
Right.
They press the button to release door 107.
It's probably a little more modern than that.
Well, right. It's touch, right? Is that the UI? Maybe some of these control centers are going to UIs that use touch.
It continues to move further in that direction, checking in, those type of things. Then the other thing now with the great resignation that's going on, it's very tough for them to get employees as well. And let's think, to even begin with, to go work in a prison, it's probably a pretty hard sell to begin with. So I do believe that, just as you see it in self-service and other areas, that in the prisons, it even brings more value to have touchscreens replace people. They're usually to work on time, and they're a little more reliable. So, and with the shortage, I think that has built up the opportunity for more touch interaction within prison systems.
Yeah. Now, I have not frequented a prison, so I don't know, but I'm going to throw on the table that, in the commissary and stuff like that, they probably have vending machines.
Right,
and you are starting to see vending machines start to use touch technology as well, whether it's built into it or as a side. You're starting to see just a lot more on the vending, right?
Right.
It's that whole self-serve. Oh, here, I just need, all I need is a screen to do this. And vending machines are becoming very sophisticated in what they can deliver off of that. And so I think there's probably an opportunity there as well on the touch side.
Yeah, I was pretty fascinated when Bill, when you mentioned this as a potential use case that most people don't think about. And my first reaction was probably what everyone's reaction is going to be, is like, why are we giving nice technology to prisoners? And again, it's one of those things like, well, it doesn't mean they have to have, barbaric, inhumane conditions necessarily, but also we talk about this a lot, this idea of, hey, let people have access to technology that they're used to in their day-to-day lives. You go backwards and things just are a bad experience. But then also the bigger part of this is what we've already been talking about here, is that we're not just talking about touchscreen technology for prisoners necessarily, although there are some opportunities for that.
Yeah, visitors.
But it's more about the visitors. It's more about
staff.
As Bill mentioned, the staffing issues right now. Imagine one less person that has to be there to check everybody in and scan IDs and verify who they're there to see. One less person that has to be there to if you want to give somebody commissary money, a loved one who's in prison, and you want to help them out by depositing some money in their account or something, you could take care of that over a touch screen.
Yep.
And I did like also, and I think when I was doing my research about this, that there is some opportunities for touch screens for inmates themselves to use. And what I found fascinating is that, again, something I didn't think about until I read it and immediately thought, oh, that makes sense, is you got to make sure that it's pretty rugged technology too. Rugged screens that can't be easily broken and busted and turned into a weapon of some sort potentially. Again, to me, this screams opportunity to go in and be like, hey, this is, if you're going to implement something like this, it's got to be more than just an iPad. It's got to be more than standard consumer technology. It has to be industrial, rugged, top grade technology, to be put into these kind of facilities for not just for high usage, but also for any potential to get destroyed in some way.
Really good point.
So,
yep.
Good one. Bill, do you have anything else to add on the prison side?
No, it's just I think a growing industry for touch, and I think for all types of touch sizes, various sizes, kiosk, point of sale systems. I think it covers the whole thing, and I do believe that there's even starting to be a collection of ISVs that are focusing into that space, just as every niche sort of comes up with the ISV channel. So I do believe that will start to grow, and there'll be more opportunities when more of the ISPs begin to bring different types of value adds to the prison.
Yeah, for sure.
Always love hearing about those software companies that are getting into an innovative niche.
Not a surprise at all, but there would be some focusing in on prisons.
Yeah. So let's talk next about cannabis dispensaries. We know that self-service kiosks are gaining popularity, obviously, in retail in general. But how do they enhance the experience when it comes to these kind of dispensaries that are, again, popping up and growing all across the nation?
I think one of the first things that people don't realize, and I haven't really frequented them, can't even say it.
Just like Dean hasn't frequented prisons,
Yes, right.
Is that there are still laws that govern when you go in there. So I think one of the things that the first thing that can be posted is sort of like how much you can buy, where you can take it. So there are some laws so people can go in there and self-service, scroll through to make sure they're aware of that. So I think there are some places that say read this first, if you will. And so people can scroll through on a touchscreen to do that. Then come in and sort of see what's in stock. You can scroll through instead of going up. You can scroll through in your privacy. Hey, I want these gummy bears, or I want these brownies, or what have you. And you're sort of secretly looking. You don't have to share by going up and saying, hey, how many of these do you have, or what is that? And so it allows for a little more privacy, because people are still there's still people that probably go in there with trench coat and are trying to duck around and not pretend like they're not there. So it does help for a little bit more autonomy when you're in there. So I think that's one of the first things is when you go in, out, and then the POS and a lot of other things. But to me, I think that's one of the big things is knowing the laws and, having some, autonomy when you're in there shopping.
Absolutely. So I know nothing about dispensaries, but I have driven past a couple of them.
You just don't know about anything. I can past them. Wow.
Well, no. So I've never been in a dispensary. That's all I'm saying. But I have driven past them, and I can tell you they are very sleek retail establishments. At least those where it's legalized. And so when you think about that and the whole customer experience that we talk about, for sure. When I look at pictures on the inside and you see the way that, the material is showcased, if you will, or merchandised, there's a lot of information. And I think that Touch would do a very good job of communicating that information. I mean, you've got a library of information, honestly. Right. I mean, what's the difference between, the product and what are the taste, what are the smell? I mean, there's all this kinds of information, right? And a great way to navigate that is through a touch type of environment, not to mention the highly visual nature that when you can get into that kind of an environment, that customer experience where you're touching through products and you're seeing graphs or you're seeing graphics or even videos and things of that nature, Touch is a great way to facilitate that. So high-end retail, think cannabis, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think, and this comes back to, Bill, you mentioned the whole, like somebody in there with a trench coat, and yet at the same time, like, I don't think that's not necessarily the case for a lot of these places anymore. It's not, it's not, again, this idea that, it's a seedy, dark place at the end of an alley somewhere or whatever. No, most cannabis dispensaries are very high profile, nice retail type establishments. And granted, again, if you know anything about the industry, you know that already. But I think there's probably a lot of misconception there.
Oh, sure.
Which, again, it lends itself to this kind of newer, more dynamic technology that people are excited about. And I think what always stands out interesting to me when you talk about the touchscreen aspect of it, and Bill mentioning, like, hey, is folks going in there deciding what do they want to browse, what do they want to ask something, is typically someone who's new, who's not been to one of these dispensaries before. That's the person that needs the customer service and the help.
That's right.
They're the ones that are going up to the counter and actually asking a lot of questions, like, hey, help me out. First time I've been in here. What do you recommend? Where should I start? Should I get sativa? Should I do this? Should I do that? I've never been to a dispensary either, but I've done enough research. I know. I'm not going to say I won't go if one ever opens up around here. Anyway.
Right. I mean,
but there's a lot of opportunity there, and the bud tenders, the dispensary owners, the folks that work there, they want to get to help the folks that come to become those future potential customers.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, you install these kiosks, touchscreen, self-service. That's for the folks that are the regulars, that know what they like, they know what they want. They can go in, they can browse through what's available, they can see what's new, where there are specials. Maybe they can go ahead and punch some orders in, get them working out on the back, or maybe get something delivered, whatever.
Yep.
So again, it's the idea of being able to meet various types of customer needs. And again, it's no different than standard high-end retail.
No, it's not. Right.
Your regulars that come in often, that know what they want, know what they're doing, are the ones that are probably going to walk up to a kiosk, browse the menu, figure out what they want, place their order, get their stuff, go on. And the newbies, that way you get more time to spend with them instead of expecting to have a personnel out on the floor talking to every single solitary person.
That's not going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll give you another use case that's in the same vein: cigar stores. So, I go to my cigar store. I'd love to have a kiosk that tells me the differences between all the hundreds of cigars they have there. I have no idea. All I can see is price, and then maybe I know a couple brands and stuff like that. But what's truly the difference between cigar A and cigar B?
Right.
I don't know. Or in this case, Bud 1 and Bud 2. What's the difference?
Exactly.
So, yeah. I think there's a
especially
lot
for nerds like us that are very like self-research types.
Well, at least a little bit of info, right? I mean, I don't need the museum, whatever moniker up there to tell me all the stuff of it, but just a little bit of information. So yeah.
You don't want to know exactly what field your cigar came from.
I don't need it. Well, maybe, nice little graphic, ding, 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 came from here.
Who personally rolled it for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So we got prisons, we got cannabis dispensaries, two ripe for opportunity spaces here.
Yes.
Now let's talk about healthcare. And I think most of us are familiar with the idea of touch screens and displays for check-in, for wayfinding in hospitals, medical facilities. But where else are they helping staff and patients right now?
Well, there's a lot, and I think the first one that is pretty known would be checking in, say at an ER or a doctor's office. There's just this check-in kiosk. That one's been around for some time. I think that was the beginning of it. I remember seeing those, 10 years ago, sort of a check-in. I think telehealth is a big one now, and that it grew exponentially during COVID. My wife's a healthcare provider, and I think she does 4 or 5 telehealth a day, and now she does them on an iPad. But the people, you don't sure what type of situation they're doing it on. They could have a large screen at home. You don't know, but so telehealth is a new one that's driving, the touchscreens in healthcare. Another one that's been there, but I still think it's prevalent, is wayfinding. Some of the very large hospitals have, screens, and they keep getting bigger, so you can go into larger format with, touch screens to figure out where you're at in the hospital, what sections what. So I think those are some of the old reliable ones. And as healthcare technology gets smaller, it gets more mobile. So more stuff is going on a cart now. So you have a touchscreen on the cart, maybe to check out a very expensive device of some type. You have the rolling pharmacies. You have the touchscreen to punch in your code to pull out the drugs. So I do think the mobile cart is growing. That's been there a while, but I think it continues to evolve. And once again, software people continue to make things better and more pertinent for the healthcare, because a place that's really struggling for having enough people is healthcare. They're mass exiting out of there. So they're really short. So I do believe that the more everywhere you look, I think an interactive piece of hardware that is reliable and affordable is going to be there long term. And I think there's nothing but opportunity in those areas right now.
Yeah, healthcare is one of those dark horses that you don't really, a lot of resellers look at healthcare and they're like, it's kind of like looking at government deals. Like,
it's a white whale. Yeah.
It's just, it's this big thing, and I don't know that I can get in there. But I'm telling you, I think we're hitting the nail on the head here. Real quick, Bill, I'm going to dive into telehealth and wayfinding real quick. On the telehealth side, there are definitely opportunities there. And what we're hearing in the marketplace is that whole at-home care. The smart hospitals and healthcare providers are starting to develop such things as kits that they can then, ship off to or send to a patient. And in that kit might be a touch screen, a tablet display or something like that, a blood pressure monitor, other devices that they can use in a telehealth session, right? So they're going to schedule to have this session, and they want to get all the vitals and stuff like that while the individual is at home. So there's a lot of opportunities. If if you think about it, or if you've kitted stuff or other solutions, think healthcare, because they are definitely going in that direction for at-home care. wayfinding, I like that one. It's a good old standard in the digital signage world. But just to drill in there a little bit, I do see bad use cases of wayfinding and use of touch technology, and that the screen is too small.
Right.
If you're going to use wayfinding, I mean, the screen needs to be large enough to accommodate the visual from afar, number one, but also to help allow people to navigate, which is why, I don't know, Bill, what's your take? What's the standard size you think you see in wayfinding? It's got to be like 45-inch and greater.
I think it has to be minimum of 32, but I think it has to be bigger. You want the targets big, because you don't want people struggling. And you have a lot of elderly in the hospital. That reinforces bigger is better. And they're going to be off and they're pointing. So as long as that square is a couple 3 inches or their action item, I think it would be very helpful.
No, I'm with you there, because again, I've seen some use cases where they're using very small, less than sub 20-inch screens for wayfinding. They're touch. It's like, what are you doing? Nobody can go up there. What, I got to pull out my Palm Pilot stylus and try to see how I'm navigate to the next floor? No, it's got to be a nice size where people can navigate, because we've talked about this before. The UI is really important. You have to be able to accommodate that. So when you get into wayfinding, when you get into display technology, especially on the touch side, that people are going to interact with it, you can't be that small. You can get away with it if you have a nominal amount of tasks, like if it's a kiosk where you're ordering something, it's just bigger buttons and then pay now and that kind of stuff. That's fine. But in a map that you gotta kind of navigate, and no, I want to go here. No, I don't want to go there. I want to go here. It gets very frustrating from the user standpoint if they don't have the right size. So.
Well, and I'll add on to that too. So patient experience, we talk all the time again, and it's one of my points that I always hammer home about the idea of technology where you are that's similar to what you're used to in your day-to-day life.
Right.
I remember when, and granted, this has been 4 years ago now, but when I was in the hospital with my wife for the birth of our son, we had the big TV, up in the corner of the room. And I did appreciate that at least I could do stuff from that TV. Like you could call the nurse, you could order food, but you were still doing all of that from like a clunky remote experience. Like it was this giant remote that had a lag time on it. I was, to place a food order. If you messed something up, it was difficult to go back. It still was not a prime experience. And meanwhile, I just bought a brand new iPhone, I think, that literally showed up like the day before my son was born. I'm sitting there playing with that and thinking like, all right, I got the most advanced new technology in my hand, and I'm using this kind of very outdated at this point already technology going on here. Right. So again, that patient experience, the idea of being able to, when someone's in the hospital for any length of time, and maybe you're giving them the opportunity to order food from their bedside, or to again request help, or even just make communications or whatever that you want to do. Why not have some kind of a touch screen available to them, something that that they could pull over bedside and watch something or do something on it, and again have that same feel that they're used to in their day-to-day life with touch screens everywhere that we already operate. Why not have that available to them in the hospital? Because let's be honest, hospitals, a big part of what helps them out and helps them thrive is patient scores. It's a huge part of healthcare.
Absolutely,
they care about this. The nursing, the staff cares about this. Funding can be hinged on this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're always concerned about what are our patient scores? What are they telling us about the experience? And let's be honest, most people don't have great experices in when they go to a hospital anyway. You're not usually there because you're looking for a fun time.
Exactly. I see what you're saying.
So, any little, so that can be, it's problematic enough to begin with. It's hard enough to get somebody, to give you a good score because they had to be there. But as things continuously go wrong, or if the technology is not right, or they're having a bad experience, or it took them forever to get someone to help, that's the kind of stuff that just keeps piling on and lowering those scores. So again, why not? Imagine how much better someone might feel like, hey, they had technology here that I was very comfortable with and used to. I loved using it. Hated that I was in the hospital, but it made my time there, a little more comfortable, a little more efficient.
Yeah. I got you. Yep.
Why not?
Yeah, I think just in closing, the more technology they make available to the patient, like a dialysis clinic's another one where you're in there, but in the hospital, is that if they have opportunities to surf or change the channel or order stuff, it's less demand on the shortage of nurses too. So the more they can distract, I think with technology, it helps the hospital. And it goes back to your score that you mentioned there, Dina, or that it's all about scoring. I think the more they can get the customer or patient distracted, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, hey, let's wrap up. Let's do a little speed round and think about some other niche use cases that are out there. So where else are you seeing opportunities for VARs that they might not normally think of with touchscreens?
Stuff that's sort of starting to happen now would be like building security. I mean, they've had building directories. It started with putting the white little letters in, then it went to maybe a 20-inch panel. Now, security in buildings like the hotel I'm in today. It's you go up and you touch what it shows all the floors in the hotel. You touch which floor it's going, and it cues it to a certain elevator. So that type of thing. So building security and building EV charging is a huge opportunity right now. Now they're kiosks and they're also standalone. So outdoor, indoor EV charging's a big one. Little bit more into the K-12, into schools. It's been in the higher ed and maybe high school, but let's face it, kids that are 3 or 4 know more about iPads than we probably do at this time. So it's getting younger. So I think there's more touch involvement even in the elementary schools. Smart lockers. So, people with all the porch thieves, porch pirates, or whatever they call them, people now can just have their thing go to an Amazon box or some sort of a box at a Walgreens. You go in and you punch in your code and you get your packages that way. So I think those type of things. Ski. I went skiing this year. They have those lockers now with touchscreens. You put your stuff in there instead of people always lose the lock or something of that nature. Room scheduling, that continues to grow. You have the big companies that are Logitech and Google that have all this stuff, Crestron that are doing all these room things. I think if anybody comes back to work in the office, that might have to rekindle that. But I think that was another place that was going well. And then kiosks for sure. Everywhere you go now, there's a kiosk. I mean, even like now valets, they have the key systems now where you put things in. So all these things that you see and you might not realize, but all those are starting to be touch controlled and some are touch initiated. So I do believe that just as people get more and more comfortable and people, as I say, and we mentioned earlier, is the COVID hasn't hurt touch. At first it did. People like, oh, I can't touch it. But now people don't want to get next to other people as much anymore. So I think as long as, that's unfortunate because I'm a people person, I'd still rather go talk to somebody sometimes because I deal with touch all the time. I'm fine talking with people, but a lot of people don't. And so I think it's fortunate for our business, but I think it's unfortunate for society as a whole, the more touch we get, because I think it pushes people apart, but that's what seems to be in demand now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of them, I'll be honest. Well, leave me alone. I'm on my screen over here.
Yeah.
All right, Dean, you
throw a
had
couple,
some others.
Well, yeah, let's throw a couple. Although kudos for going to the EV charging route.
I knew that you would appreciate that.
We've might have a little initiative going on that.
Maybe, you think?
A little bit, and really, really great opportunities there for sure. When you think about all that's going to explode in that area, no doubt about it. So a couple things I wanted to throw on the table, and Bill, I'd love to give you your take on this. Because there's the traditional, what I would call display technology that we've been talking about. But let's dive a little bit into like open frame, and maybe an area where a lot of resellers are a little bit nervous of getting into. And the reason why I want to bring it on the table is because when you think about IoT and edge devices, we talk a lot about the edge, and it's there, it's a thing, it's happening. And when you do that, you start embedding technology in some unique areas, or maybe some areas that you wouldn't think that you would be getting into. For example, robotics are going to be used in warehousing and stuff like that. Well, the control modules or interfaces to maybe control and see dashboards and stuff like that. Yeah, that could be on a traditional display, or maybe it's going to be embedded into a control panel or something existing already. Maybe you're helping a manufacturer of, I don't know, like a ship or something like that, and they're looking to embed or through use of open frame, I guess, displays, touch technology into their control panels of their new ships or something like that. Those are a couple niche use cases, but I think you get the point of where I'm going here is that, where the whole world is going, not just from edge devices, but also embedding touch. Do you have any advice for resellers that maybe are traditional and they understand screens, but they really haven't gotten into the open frame side? Any pitfalls or any advice you would give folks?
Well, I think one thing that, and then I'll get back to your question. One thing with when you get involved with, say, a life or death thing, so maybe a ship, a car, a plane, you have to have a really robust operating system, not a Windows, not a Linux. These are like companies like Wind River and some of these things that are bulletproof essentially because they're so embedding that in so that firmware or that software stack has to be very, very stable. So, and then going on to the touchscreen portion of it, then as far as the firmware and all that stuff has to be very ruggedized. So general, to go buy one of something out of, BlueStar's inventory of VAR to go into something like that, probably not so much. But as far as integrating it, an open frame that can go into a wall, into a kiosk, into a control room, maybe it's an oil refinery or something of that nature where people are doing that. I do think that because of the touch technology sort of narrowing down to primarily PCAP now. I'm guessing it's good 80-90% of the market because you don't have to have a bunch of drivers anymore. It's pretty much a head device. It's just like a mouse. Plug it in, it works most of the time. So I think people you don't have to be as technology savvy or niche savvy as you were in the past because most of these are plug and play. I think you want to make sure that you pick the appropriate size. I think you brought that up 2 or 3 times today, you guys, that the size isn't always right. And then that you just have the right software with the right solution because you can have a great open frame product in a kiosk or in a wall or in some type of a transportation device. But if the software doesn't, coincide with it and work together, it's going to be a tough sale. So I think it's having the ability to put that whole solution together as the VAR, and then and that's where the relationships with their ISVs and just staying current and maybe going after a certain vertical market to begin with if they are a little bit questionable on if they think they can go do some of these integrated solutions.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a use case that I was involved in, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head. So we did an open frame kiosk that we manufactured in conjunction with a manufacturer that was used in auctioning in an auction house. And what they wanted was the ability for people that were coming to the auction to interactively go between the different things that were coming up for sale. But they wanted it to be in a sleek, they didn't want just a screen, on a table sitting there which would have been okay, I guess.
But they wanted experiential kind of
bingo. They wanted a better experience. So it was in like this wood frame and we had never done anything open frame before. I mean, if you needed a display hung on a wall somewhere, we got you. We know exactly how to do it. Open frame. What do you mean? What, or how are we going to do that? How are we going to, so we had to get involved in it. And I'm glad you went there, Bill, because it's not, there is no real reason to be afraid of it. It's just, it's just an open frame, but the connections are still the same and stuff like that. Maybe you're getting in a little bit more on the engineering of the experience or the kiosk itself, but don't be afraid, and jump in there. We use Scala as the interface and the software to facilitate it. But today, I've seen it being used where it's just websites, and the ability to navigate the website in an interactive touch environment. Maybe it's embedded via open frame in some kiosk or something like that. So those are the kinds of opportunities. So anyway, I was throwing out auctions. I was throwing out CNC machines, a lot of these machines with manufacturing coming back, hopefully to the U.S., more manufacturing happening. Yeah, right. There's opportunities there for open frame and stuff like that. So anyway, they're there. They are there. People are using touch technology.
Yeah. The other thing, Dean, real quick, is that if it goes into a wall or a kiosk, primarily kiosks, the VAR can sell advertising too, or sell to their customer that they can put their name on it. They can use decals and change it from week to week. If it's like those crumble cookie shops where they have 5 flavors each week, they can put the decals up, and there's lots of revenue generating activity that if the VAR takes that to the customer, it helps and show that they can pay that thing off. More opportunity for them to sell sell that solution to them.
Absolutely.
Don't forget about that content management.
Content is king. Programmatic, digital out of home. It's you're going to hear BlueStar
just because you sold
that
piece of technology, that hardware, doesn't mean that you're done making money off of that particular.
Recurring revenue. What?
Yeah. I think that's a term we talk about from time to time on the show. Yeah. We probably should have called this the recurring revenue podcast. I feel like that's.
Hey, we're just trying to help VARs out, right? How do you do that? Well, you keep that check coming in every month. That's how you help out. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, before we wrap up with Bill telling us a little bit more about how MicroTouch can help out our VARs, in particular, look for these opportunities, I want to, as always, thank our TEConnect members and sponsors for supporting the podcast. Thanks so much to MicroTouch for sponsoring this particular episode. As always, if you like the show, please, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Smash the subscribe button for our channel so you don't miss out on all the video content that we're doing there. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And if you listen on the audio-only versions, make sure you're subscribing to us. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
Minimum.
If you're listening there. Minimum. Yes. I mean, if you can go 6 stars somehow, please do that too. That's fine, but at least 5, okay? And tell us what you think about the show. Give us some feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear about. Check the show notes. There's always a link I put in there to give us topic suggestions.
Absolutely.
So if there's certain things you want to hear about on the podcast, all you'd have to do is go to that link, drop us a quick note, tell us what you're interested in hearing about on the show. Just for doing it, we will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt. It's a nice shirt.
There you go.
It's just it's a nice,
who doesn't
soft,
need a new shirt in the
comfortable
summertime?
t-shirt.
I mean, come on, right?
If you want to use it as a rag or a painting shirt, I don't care.
You don't have to tell us.
Just give us some topics. We're fine with it.
We think you'll be wearing it with pride.
There you go. Exactly. And as always, if you want to reach out to us, connect with us, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here. First of all, with value to the VARs. So, Bill, I'll let you talk a little bit more about MicroTouch's ability here. How are you guys helping VARs find these unique opportunities and build out the sale and bring touchscreen technology to the forefront?
Well, since we've sort of relaunched the MicroTouch brand about a year ago, we're still treading through the water, figuring things out how we can be of value. And I think a couple of things that we can bring value is right now we're pretty limited on our distribution, and so that allows it allows the VARs to have a little bit more margin because we're not everywhere at this point. We're not going to be heard of as much. You do a web search, so I do believe that the VARs can make some good margin, and in times like this, extra margin does help. With limited distribution, it allows for ease of acquisition in some aspect because by limitations, we only have a couple of distributors right now. It's easier for the VARs to get to, so they don't have to get 5 here and 10 there. If we have them, they're going to be at probably one location. So I think it just makes it a little bit more streamlined. The other thing is we do make our own product. We have 2 factories, one in Taiwan, one in China, so we can work with redundancies and have the ability for government contracts. And the other thing is the ability to customize to a certain degree. We don't want to go out and customize everything, but if there is some small changes, we do bring some value to that VAR, whether it's putting their name on a product or they need it in white or they need something else done. We have that ability to do that in a rather quick and limited entry fee, if you will. We can do that in a pretty small quantity because we do, control the factory. So those are some of the things. And then we are true tier 2 distribution. We do not sell to the VAR or to the end user at all. So I think that'll give them a little bit of confidence that, that they can, if they bring a deal to us, we're not going to be, potentially, selling it sideways. And so I think simplicity, we're small. I think we have a little bit personal touch right now. And I think that is what I think some of the VARs do enjoy about us.
Very nice. Yep, I concur.
I agree. My favorite thing there was when you mentioned the fact of being able to get everything from like 1, maybe 2 locations.
Yes.
Again, especially in our headache of a logistics and supply chain world right now.
Yes.
It's nice to be able to tell somebody like, oh, you want 50 displays? well, rather than I'm going to give you 5 from here, 6 from there, 10 from over there, they're all going to show up within about 1 week to 3 months apart. You just say, oh yeah, we've either got what you need or we don't have what you need. BlueStar's got them all 50 are right there waiting for you. You know, so that's a great message to be able to tell that. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, let's wrap things up as always with our fun favorite segment. What's Tech Connecting with you? Bill, I'm excited to hear about yours. This is where we talk about something in the world of science, tech innovation that's caught our eye, got our attention, something we're thinking about, talking about. Bill, what's Tech Connecting with you right now?
Right now, the thing that sort of fascinated me is the BMW, where they launched this e-ink changing paint color on the cars. And I don't know how prevalent it is out there yet. There's probably ways to get it, but some of the reasoning behind or some of the use cases or value adds of paying to have that thing were striking to me. A couple of them that stood out was like if it's an electric car, that the car can change color as it gets more charged. So you can look out your door and see, oh, it's back to red, it's charged. Say if you're driving for Uber or Lyft, you can have, different color for empty and full, with a ride or without a ride. As the sunlight changes, you can change the color to reduce heat into the car, reflect the lighting. So there even are some, things other than just I'm cool to have it, there's some things that are actually well used. And I think the energy thing, with the, sunlight and stuff like that. So it's sort of a neat thing. I don't know about if policemen are going to be real heavy on that. We're looking for the guy in the black BMW.
Go there. Right. Yeah. This is the ultimate. This is the ultimate James Bond. Like he whatever. They did the crime in a silver car.
Right,
the car turns black. Turns white. Yeah.
I
don't think the police.
I wonder if that could stop it. I don't know if something like that could put some brakes on it. I didn't see that mentioned in anywhere, but that was something I was thinking of. I could have used a few times. Was zip around the corner and change the color of your car.
Yep.
It came in handy.
They got away in a blue car, and you were coasting right by them in a black car now instead.
But to your point, the usefulness of this technology, I was just kind of watching it as you were talking about. That is really cool.
Yeah.
It is pretty slick, and I can see. How do I know if that car is has an occupant, whether it's an Uber or something like that? Yeah. I wonder if you can put how realistic of graphics you could even put it.
I was thinking that too, like advertising.
Color
graphics
changes and stuff like that. But
right.
man, I'm telling you, it's tiled, and I bet you could do that pretty easily.
I'm pumped about this technology.
Are you?
There's just stuff. Ever since Bill mentioned it before we got on here that he was going to talk about this.
Yep. You got the wheels crawling?
Yeah, spinning through my head. So so we talked about the advertising part. That was something immediately occurred to me right there. Okay, what about mood changing? So that what you're dealing with drivers around you. I'm not thinking about for me. I'm thinking about for everyone else. If it turns a bright red, like it's someone who's suffering road rage right now, maybe you back off a little bit.
Yeah, back off a little bit.
Maybe they're not driving very well. They're a little distracted driving. They're kind of weaving a bit. Turn yellow is cautionary. Right? You might want to hang back a little. This person's not driving too well right now.
Maybe for when your spouse is on the way home, see what color the car is.
There you go. You see them pulling into the driveway. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I better clean things up real quick and get some flowers ready or something. Yeah.
Or straight out the back door. One of the two.
That too. What about, you mentioned the police thing, obviously, and the changing color to get away with stuff. But I was also thinking haven't there been statistics that show that police pull over red cars more than any other type?
Right. Okay.
I feel like I remember hearing that at some point. Maybe that's not really the case, or maybe that's just an urban legend. But if so, think about that. Waze always tells me if there's police somewhere ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What if they tell me police are ahead? I'm just all right, hit the button and
white
change over to
blue.
White or blue or something, whatever the most unoffending color, the least pullover color is. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of cool possibilities, and I'm just thinking also when I've gone shopping for cars, or when I went shopping with my wife for a car, there's, how it is when you go looking for a car, you have a color in mind that you want, but often finding what you want with the specs that you want with all the
impossible.
It's impossible in the color, and you end up.
Oh, we don't have that car for you, John. We have this one.
Yeah, exactly. You end up color tends to be one of those things you end up settling and just going, all right, fine. I got everything else I want. It's not quite the right color. Well, now that could be a great upsell for the car manufacturers saying, hey, look, I can't, I don't have that on lot right now, but I got this car that's got everything you want, and for an extra $1,000, we'll coat it with the special
only
color
$1,000.
change.
I'm wondering what this
10,000
goes
be honest,
for. Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna be a lot more than that. That's a good one. I really like that. That's very much in the spirit of TEConnecting.
Very much so.
What about you, Dean? What's TEConnecting with you right now?
Okay, well, would you like to? Here it is. Would you like to look 30 years younger? Would you like to look 30 years younger, John?
Well, no, wait. I was
Bill.
Be 15. I don't want to look 15.
Oh, okay, Bill. Would you like to use 30 or look 30 years younger at some point in time in your life? You think?
That would be pretty cool.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Researchers, I would.
I'll go 20. I can go 20.
20? Okay, well, researchers have demonstrated a technique to literally rewind the biological clock in skin cells with the equivalent of 30 years. So this place is called the Babaram Institute in the UK.
Babaram.
Yep, they have partially rejuvenated cells so that they show signs of behaving more like youthful cells in experiments that they have run, right? But the new method, now it's based on a Nobel Prize winning technique. So this is serious stuff, right?
Okay.
This is not like, whatever, snake oil sales or anything like that. Nobel Prize winning technique scientists use from stem cells overcomes the problem of entirely erasing cell identity by halting the reprogramming part of the way through the process. So they're kind of halting part of the process, if you will, through this through this process. Anyway, it allows the researchers to be very precise about how much they want to reprogram it, but they think they can go up to 30 years back. So is it going to be someday that you would go into some spa or something like that? Oh, how many years would you like us to dial back or something?
No.
We're going to reprogram your skin cells and so that you look 20 years younger. No?
Look, that's all well and good, but I want the insides to get younger.
Oh, yes. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Like, you can dial back the skin all you want, but if I'm still old on the inside and falling apart and everything's not working anymore,
you don't want an
doesn't
80-year-old,
really matter, you know, like
if you got an 80-year-old heart and,
exactly.
and you're 50 on the outside.
Yeah,
I see.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're on hold until we get the internal stuff going.
Yeah.
Got it.
You can back up all. I mean, sure, maybe I would shave like 5-10 years off or something like that. Maybe get me in a little more of my prime.
Hey, man, they're going to start with the skin cells. Maybe they move to the heart next. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Let me know when we can back up everything else. So
got it.
When I can dial back the rest of the organs.
Yeah, are you on that boat too, Bill? Yeah.
Yeah. How long is that good for? And that type of thing. You sort of wonder. 3 months later, do you look 30 years older than before you started?
Yeah. That's a very good point. Like, is it something like, we got to come in for like weekly treatments that are $1,000 each now? They're not telling you that part.
No, they're not telling us that part. No. And I don't know if you can keep doing it, right?
Right.
It's like the eternal facelift, and then it just starts looking like you're glue or gummy or whatever. Oh,
yeah, that's the other part of it too. Is like, I feel like often these miraculous make you look at younger things go wrong or become painfully obvious to the rest of us.
Painfully obvious.
Like, yes. I know that you're not actually that young, and it is very obvious that you have made these certain parts of you look slightly younger.
Try to make them look
try.
Yes.
The operative.
All right, so the jury's still out, but you never know. You might get some aging.
We'll keep an eye on that. We'll put that in the keeping an eye on.
Keep
this
an eye
folder.
on. There you go.
Yeah.
What's TEConnecting with you?
All right, so I recently found a couple-year-old article in I think it was in the Hollywood Reporter, a little bit of an oral history of the film The Black Hole.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this movie?
I have not seen that movie.
Bill, have you seen this film? Okay.
No, I have not.
This was a Disney film from 1979. It was kind of their answer to Star Wars.
Really?
I was a big fan of this movie when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I actually, as soon as Disney Plus became available, it was one of the first films that I looked up and found was on there and watched again. And I admit it doesn't quite hold up the way Star Wars does.
Okay.
But this was a very interesting story because there was a huge gamble on Disney's part to make this film. First of all, again, like I said, they were trying to figure out how do we do our own Star Wars of sorts. And apparently this film had been in the production cycle for a long time, even before Star Wars came out.
Oh, okay.
And they dusted some stuff off, polished it off, found a director to work on this. So this film stars Robert Forster, Ernest Borgnine, Anthony Perkins, Maximilian Schell. That's the four major actors that were in it at the time.
Those are stars.
It's the simple pitch of the story is basically a group of explorers that are out, exploring space, come across a derelict ship that had been thought missing for a long time. Find this reclusive captain surrounded by drone robotic people and actual robots or whatever, camped outside of a black hole. and he wants to go into the black hole and discover its mysteries and beyond.
Got it.
Whatever.
Right. Yes.
And along the way, the crew uncovers some dramatic secrets, all this kind of stuff. It was a very fun, cool film. It's got some the robots in particular are kind of interesting. There was a really evil robot, a red robot named Maximilian, honestly, oddly enough. And he's kind of like the secondary villain of the film. A very creepy imagery type, robot that I remember sticking with me as a kid. Anyway, so the history of this film and the story behind it's kind of fascinating. So $20 million budget. So, they didn't have a lot to go on. And yet it looks all right for $20 million. It was the first PG film that Disney ever released. Everything up to that point was G.
This
was a little more adult-oriented of sorts, so it got the PG.
Warner, yes.
A couple of the best stories that came out of this is one, the actors they cast for the doctor on the ship, original actors that they cast, had this beautiful long hair, and they wanted her to have short hair because they were filming kind of zero G type scenes,
right?
And her hair would just get everywhere,
right?
And they you're going to need to cut your hair, and she was all like, "No, I don't want to do that." And they were like, "If you want this part, you got to cut your hair." So she showed up on set one day with the literal Vidal Sassoon, her hairstylist, showed up with her. And they cut her hair while she was chugging red wine, apparently, to deal with having all of her hair cut off. I mean, apparently she had hair all the way down her back. This luxurious, beautiful hair.
Are you kidding me right now?
At the end of the process, they got her hair finished and got it cut. She decided to drive home.
Yeah.
After again having a lot of wine,
right?
Got into a car accident and was in the hospital, and therefore did not get the part. They cast another woman to play this role eventually because they needed to move quickly.
Do we call that karma? Maybe I don't know.
I feel bad for this poor woman. Not only were they just no, if you want to be in our movie, you're gonna cut your hair.
Right.
Never mind. There's wigs that can accomplish that. You can put a woman's long hair up under a wig and accomplish the short hair look just fine.
That's fair.
So this poor woman not only has to cut her hair, gets into a car accident. I'm assuming she was okay, and doesn't even get the part in this film.
Oh man.
The other interesting story is, if you do ever see this movie, it has a crazy ending that to this day still kind of baffles me. I read the novelization at one point and kind of feel like I understood the ending a little more. I won't spoil it, but there's an insanely strange, kind of out of left field sort of ending to it.
Like Clockwork Orange?
No, more like 2001. Almost.
Yes.
Like a very trippy kind of. Well, apparently they didn't have an ending for the story while they were filming either, and they kind of made it up a few weeks before they finished production and decided to film this ending. And it is and again for a PG film that sort of is for kids and definitely is PG at the time. It is way over any kid's head to even possibly remotely understand.
Wow. Okay.
Again, I still watch it.
I got to see this thing. Yeah.
It really is a fun, fascinating film. There's some really cool, different special effects that you wouldn't expect in it. So
fair enough.
The Black Hole.
The Black Hole. Huh?
I will put the link to that article. It's a fascinating read of kind of not old Hollywood, but a little more outdated.
Rotten Tomato only gives it a 39. So
really,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, it peaks I think if you were of a certain age where you just loved anything science fiction, and obviously, like I said, it's no Star Wars, but it scratches a little bit of that fun for a fun space adventure.
Fair enough.
And it's got some cool kiddie-friendly robots in it. A terrifying robot that commits a heinous murder like halfway through the film.
But other than that,
it's got some fun, cute little robots in it.
We're watching The Black Hole.
There you go. Check out The Black Hole. Bill Nulf from MicroTouch, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciated having you on. Hey, until next time, maybe try, if you got to go to prison, check out and make sure, demand the best touchscreen technology.
The best technology you can. Yes.
Watch The Black Hole, and as always, folks, stay connected. TEConnect podcast is brought to you by MicroTouch. Hopefully this episode convinced you to look for some more unique and unexpected places to sell touchscreen technology.
Niche-y?
Yeah, niche-y.
I think
or
so.
niche, as most of us say.
I'm sorry, niche, yes.
You've got me saying niche on a regular basis now, So, of course, MicroTouch has you covered here with their IC215P display.
Nice.
This is a 21.5-inch PCAP all-in-one touch computer with an Intel 7th Gen i5 processor.
We like that.
Standard 8 gig DDR4 memory and 128 gigs of storage. That's quite a bit of storage there.
Mm-hmm.
Combining computing performance and enterprise control with industry-leading touch experience enables an effortless and reliable solution for a variety of applications like prisons, dispensaries, healthcare.
Like all those we just talked about?
All the stuff we just talked about today.
Bingo.
Designed with an ultra-modern, slim aesthetic, versatile I/O selections, and edgeless touch, brings to life a true value-add experience for customers.
I love the edgeless touch, by the way.
Isn't that
very
cool?
nice?
Yeah, I agree. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
It offers flexibility from POS to an exposed kiosk, self-service to point of information, mounted landscape, or portrait. Peripheral options like MSR and a camera module kit. The IC251P is a perfect solution for your customers' everyday or highly unique needs. So check out the link in the show notes for more details or contact your BlueStar representative.